Kalibangan is a town located at 29.47 degrees north, 74.13 degrees east, 29.47, 74.13 on the left to southern banks of the Ghaggar, identified by some scholars with Sarasvati River in Tehsil Pilibangān, between Suratgarh and Hanumāngarh in Hanumangarh district, Rajasthan, India, 205 kilometers from Bikaner. It is also identified as being established in the triangle of land at the confluence of Drishadvati and Sarasvathi Rivers. The prehistoric and pre-Mauryan character of Indus Valley Civilization was first identified by Luigi Tessitori at this site. Kalibangan's excavation report was published in its entirety in 2003 by the Archaeological Survey of India, 34 years after the completion of excavations. The report concluded that Kalibangan was a major provincial capital of the Indus Valley Civilization. Kalibangan is distinguished by its unique fire altars and world's earliest attested plowed field. Indus Valley Civilization. The identity of Kalibangan as a prehistoric site was discovered by Luigi Tessitori, an Italian Indologist. He was doing some research in ancient Indian texts. He was surprised by the character of ruins in that area, and he sought help from Sir John Marshall of the Archaeological Survey of India. At the time, ASI had some excavations done on Harappa, but they never had any idea about the character of the ruins. In fact, Tessitori is the first person to recognize that the ruins are prehistoric and pre-Mauryan. Luigi Tessitori also pointed out the nature of the culture, but at that time it was not possible to guess that Indus Valley Civilization lay in the ruins of Kalibangan, and he died 5 years before Harappan culture was duly recognized. After India's independence, both the major Harappan cities together with the Indus became a part of Pakistan, and Indian archaeologists were compelled to intensify the search. The Harappan sites in India. Amlan Ghosh was the first person to recognize this site as Harappan and marked it out for excavations. Under the leadership of B.B. Lal or Krishna Thapa, M.D. K. M. Srivastava and S. P. Jain carried out excavations for 9 years in 9 successive excavation sessions. 2 ancient mounds were excavated, spread over half kilometer. On western side is the smaller mound, 9 meters high and known as Citadel. Eastern mound is higher and bigger, known as Lower City. The excavation unexpectedly brought to light a twofold sequence of cultures, of which the upper one belongs to the Harappan, showing the characteristic grid layout of a metropolis, and the lower one was formerly called pre-Harappan, but now it is called early Harappan or antecedent Harappan. Other nearby sites belonging to IVC include Balu, Haryana, Karnal, Haryana, Banawali, etc. Proto-Harappan phase. Traces of pre-Harappan culture have been found only at the lower levels of the western mound. According to archaeological evidence, the Indus Valley culture existed at the site from the Proto-Harappan age to the Harappan age. This earlier phase is labeled Kalibangan I period I. Similarity of pottery relates Kalibangan I with the Sodhi culture because a lot of this pottery was later discovered at Sodhi village in north-western India. Fort and houses. In this phase, the settlement was fortified using dried mud bricks. From the beginning of occupation, this fort had been built twice in different periods. Earlier, fort wall had a thickness of 1.9 meters, which was raised to 3.7 to 4.1 meters during reconstruction in this phase. Brick size was 20 times 20 times 10 centimeters in both construction phases. The citadel mound found is a parallelogram about 130 meters on the east-west axis and 260 meters on the north-south. Town planning was like that of Mohenjo-daro or Harappa. The direction of houses and brick sizes was markedly different from that used in the Harappan phase. Within the walled area, the houses were also built of mud bricks of the same size as used in the fort wall. The use of burnt bricks is attested by drain within the houses, remains of ovens and cylindrical pits lined with lime plaster. Some burnt wedge-shaped bricks also have been found. Earliest plowed field B.B. Lal, a former DG of ASI, writes, Kalibangan in Rajasthan has given the evidence of the earliest plowed agricultural field ever revealed through an excavation. It has been found southeast of the pre-Harappan settlement, outside the fort. Kalibangan excavations in present western Rajasthan shows a ploughed field, the first site of this nature in the world. It shows a grid pattern of furrows, placed about 30 centimeters apart running east-west and others spaced about 190 centimeters apart running north-south, a pattern remarkably similar to the one practiced even now. Even today, similar ploughing is used for two simultaneous crops in this region, especially of mustard and gram. For preservation, this excavated ploughed field area was refilled after excavation and the area was marked by concrete pillar posts. Pottery. The distinguishing mark of this early phase is pottery, characterized by 6 fabrics labeled A, B, C, D, E and F, which were later identified also at Sodhi in northwestern India. Fabrics A, B, and D can be clubbed together. They are red-painted. Fabric A is carelessly potted in spite of use of potter's wheel. It contains designs in light black, often decorated with white lines, semicircles, grids, insects, flowers, leaves, trees and squares were favorite motifs. Fabric B shows marked improvement in finishing, but the lower half was deliberately roughened. Flowers, animals were painted in black on red background. Fabric D contained designs of slanted lines or semicircles in some, while most pots were plain. But fabric C pottery was thicker and stronger. Fabric C was distinguished by violet tinge and fine polish, with designs in black. It is the best Proto-Harappan pottery in finishing. Fabric E was light-colored and fabric F was gray. Other finds among the other finds of this period are small blades of chalcedony and agate, sometimes serrated or backed beads of steatite, shell, carnelian, terracotta and copper, bangles of copper, shell and terracotta objects like a toy cart, wheel and a broken bull, quem with mullahs, a bone point, and copper celts, including an unusual axe, etc. Toy carts suggest carts were used for transportation in early phase of Kalibangan. Earliest earthquakes and end of phase 1 BB. Lal, a former DG of ASI, writes, Kalibangan in Rajasthan has also shown that there occurred an earthquake around 2600 BC, which brought to an end the early Indus settlement at the site. This is perhaps the earliest archaeologically recorded earthquake. At least 3 prehistoric earthquakes affecting the Indus Valley Civilization at Dholavira in Ghaggar have been identified during 2900–1800 BC. Kalbi phase has left 1.6 meters of continuous deposits during 5 distinct structural strata, the last of which was destroyed perhaps by an earthquake, and the site was abandoned around 2600 BCE, soon to be settled again by Harappans. Harappan phase. Fire altars at Kalibangan. Fire altars have been discovered, similar to those found at Lothal, which S.R. Rao thinks could have served no other purpose than a ritualistic one. These altars suggest fire worship, a worship of Agni, the Hindu god of fire. It is the only Indus Valley Civilization site where there is no evidence to suggest the worship of the mother goddess. Within the fortified citadel complex, the southern half contained many raised platforms of mud bricks, mutually separated by corridors. Stairs were attached to these platforms. The vandalism of these platforms by brick robbers makes it difficult to reconstruct the original shape of structures above them, but unmistakable remnants of rectangular or oval kundas of fire pits of burnt bricks for Vedas have been found, with a yupara sacrificial post in the middle of each kunda and sacrificial terracotta cakes in all these fire pits. Houses in the lower town also contain similar altars. Burnt charcoals have been found in these fire pits. The structure of these fire altars is reminiscent of fire altars, but the analogy may be coincidental, and these altars are perhaps intended for some specific purpose by the community as a whole. In some fire altars, remnants of animals have been found, which suggest a possibility of animal sacrifice. The official website of ASI reports, besides the above two principal parts of the metropolis, there was also a third one, a moderate structure situated upwards of 80 meters east of the lower town, containing 4 to 5 fire altars. This lonely structure may perhaps have been used for ritual purposes. Thus, fire altars have been found in 3 groups: public altars in the citadel, household altars in lower town, and public altars in a third separate group. A short distance from fire altars, a well and remnants of a bathing place were found, suggesting ceremonial bath was a part of rituals. The interpretation of these structures as fire altars is controversial. Very similar structures elsewhere from recent excavations have been interpreted as cooking hearths of various styles of crafting and pottery kilns. Lowertown. The lower town was also a fortified parallelogram, although only traces are now left. The fort was made of mud bricks and 3 or 4 structural phases have been recognized. It had gates in north and west. Bibi Lal Road. Well-regulated streets, oriented almost invariably along with the cardinal directions, thus forming a gridiron pattern. Even the widths of these streets were in a set ratio, i.e., if the narrowest lane was 1 unit in width, the other streets were twice, thrice and so on. Such a town planning was unknown in contemporary West Asia. The lower town was 239 meters east to west, but north-south extent cannot be determined. 8 main roads have been recognized, 5 north-south and 3 east-west. Few more east-west roads are expected to be buried within the unexcavated remains. Second east-west road ran in a curved outline to meet the first at the northeastern end, where a gateway was provided. This road was an anomaly in the grid pattern of straight roads. There were many lanes connected to specific housing complexes. Roads and lanes had widths in accurately determined proportions, like in other Harappan cities, ranging from 7.2 meters for main roads to 1.8 meters for narrow lanes. Fender posts were installed at street corners to prevent accidents. In second structural level, roads were laid with mud tiles. Drains from houses emptied into pits beneath the roads. Some central authority must be there to plan and regulate all this. Housing like town planning. Housing also followed the common pattern of other Harappan cities. Due to grid pattern of town planning like a chessboard, all houses opened out to at least 2 or 3 roads or lanes. Each house had a courtyard and 6 to 7 rooms on 3 sides, with a well in some houses. One house had stairs going to the roof. Houses were built of 30 times 15 times 7.5 centimeters mud bricks. Burnt bricks were used in drains, wells, bathing platforms and or sills. Besides fire altar, floors of rooms were built of thrashed fine mud, sometimes laid with mud bricks or terracotta cakes. One house had floors built of burnt tiles decorated with geometrical designs. Kalibangan 1953a. Ghosh, situated in Rajasthan on the bank of Ghaggar 1. Shows both pre-Harappan and Harappan Phase 2. Evidence of furrowed land 3. Evidence of camel bones 4. Many houses had their own well 5. Kalibangan stand for black bangles 6. Evidence of wooden furrow, terracotta. Some early Kalibangan pottery has close resemblance to the pottery of the Ghaggar in Kholistan, to other early Harappan pottery from the Indus Valley Civilization and to the pottery of the Integration era. Functionally, pottery can be classified into household pots, religious and burial purposes. Structurally, we have classes like plain and decorated wares. Some pots had Harappan inscriptions on them. The best terracotta figure from Kalibangan is that a charging bull, which is considered to signify the realistic and powerful folk art of Harappan. The city is known for the numerous terracotta bangles found here. Seals. A number of seals have been found dating to this phase. Most noteworthy is a cylindrical seal, depicting a female figure between two male figures, fighting or threatening with spears. There is also a mixed person bull observing. They are of rectangular shape. Other finds: a cylindrical graduated measuring rod and a clay ball with human figures are other notable finds. Peas and chickpeas were also found. Burial systems. 3 systems of burial have been attested in the burial ground till the 300 yards southwest of the citadel, where till the 34 graves have been found. Burial in rectangular or oval pit, with corpse laid down straight head northwards amidst pottery. In one pit a copper mirror was found among these objects. Pits were mud-filled after burying. One grave was enclosed with a mud brick wall plastered from inside. One child had 6 holes in the skull. Many paleopathological evidences have been gathered from these graves. Burial in pot in a circular pit, with no corpse. 4 to 29 pots and utensils were placed around the main pot. In some graves beads, shell, etc. have been found. Rectangular or oval grave pit, containing only pottery and other funerary objects. Like the first type, the length of this type of graves was also along north-south. The latter 2 methods were not associated with any skeletal remains and may be related to symbolic burial, not found at other Harappan towns. The third type of graves contained objects as in the second type, like beads, shells, etc. but no corpse. Some pits were not filled. ASI official website. End of civilization. Robert Rakes has argued that Kalibangan was abandoned because the river dried up. Professor B. Bilal supports this view by asserting, radiocarbon dates indicate that the mature Harappan settlement at Kalibangan had to be abandoned around 2000 to 1900 BCE, and, as the hydrological evidence indicates, this abandonment took place on account of the drying up of the Sarasvati. This latter part is duly established by the work of Rakes, an Italian hydrologist, and of his Indian collaborators. Modern Kalibangan. Kalibangan name translates to Black Bangles. A few miles downstream is the railway station and township named Pilibangān, which means Yellow Bangles. ASI set up an archaeological museum at Kalibangan in 1983 to store the excavated materials here during 1961 to 69. In one gallery, pre-Harappan finds are displayed, while Harappan finds are displayed in the other 2 galleries.